Some politicians are calling for higher taxes on the rich. And naturally, these proposals have unleashed a torrent of opposition, mostly from the rich. Here are the 12 biggest myths they are propounding. Myth: a top marginal tax rate applies to all of a person's total income or wealth.
Why aren't you giving 70% of your income to the government? You could.
You're going to tax 70% of your paycheck.
Wrong. It would only apply to dollars in excess of a certain level. The 70% income tax rate proposed by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would apply only to dollars in excess of $10 million a year. The 2% wealth tax proposed by Elizabeth Warren would apply only to wealth in excess of $50 million. Myth: raising taxes on the rich is a far-left idea.
She wants to radically tax the rich.
Taxing rich people, that's an old saw from the left.
Baloney. 70% of Americans, including 54% of Republicans, support raising taxes on families making more than $10 million a year. And expecting the rich to pay their fair share is a traditional American idea. From 1930 to 1980, the average top marginal income tax rate was 78%. From 1951 to 1963, it exceeded 90%. Again, only on dollars in excess of a very high threshold. Even considering all deductions and tax credits, the very rich paid over half of their top incomes in taxes. Myth: a wealth tax is unconstitutional.
Bad idea.
And it's likely unconstitutional.
Sounds great, not constitutional, I don't think.
Rubbish. Most locales already impose an annual wealth tax on the value of people's homes, the main source of household wealth for most people. It's called the property tax. The rich hold most of their wealth in stocks and bonds. So why should these forms of wealth escape taxation? Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution gives Congress the power to lay and collect taxes. Myth: when taxes on the rich are cut, they invest more and everyone benefits. When taxes on the rich are increased, economic growth slows.
The frightening thing about high marginal tax rates is that it leads us into a low productivity economy.
They're going to stop creating jobs. If you raise the interest rates, they'll stop investing money. They'll stop borrowing money. And that has a trickle-down effect.
Utter baloney. Trickle-down economics is a cruel joke. Donald Trump, George W. Bush, and Ronald Reagan all cut taxes on the rich, and nothing trickled down. There's no evidence that higher taxes on the rich slows economic growth. To the contrary, when the top marginal tax rate has been high, between 71 and 92%, growth has averaged 4% a year. But when the top rate has been low, between 28 and 39%, growth has averaged only 2.1%. Myth: when you cut taxes on corporations, they invest more and create more jobs.
Will stimulate investment domestically.
Stimulate the jobs that the economy needs.
Wrong again. After Trump and the Republicans lowered the corporate tax rate in 2018, America's largest corporations cut more jobs than they created. They used their tax savings largely to increase their stock prices by buying back their own shares of stock, enriching executives and wealthy investors, but providing no real benefit to the economy. Myth: the rich already pay more than their fair share in taxes.
When she says the thing about fair share, you know, the top 1% of earners pay 40% of income taxes.
The top 1% already pay 37% of all federal income taxes.
This is misleading because it focuses only on income taxes, leaving out the large and growing tax burden on lower income Americans. Payroll taxes, state and local sales taxes, and property taxes take bigger bites out of the pay of lower income families than higher income. Myth: the rich already pay capital gains taxes.
The very, very top pay capital gains tax.
We already have a 30%, 20 to 30% tax on capital gains.
Misleading. Rich families avoid paying capital gains taxes by passing their wealth on to their heirs. In fact, the largest share of big estates transferred from generation to generation are unrealized capital gains that have never been taxed. Myth: the estate tax is a death tax that hits millions of Americans.
Does death trigger another grab from the government? It's so un-American, it just turns my stomach. She wants another bite at the apple. And when you die, even another bite at the apple, 40% worth.
Baloney. The current estate tax, which only applies to assets in excess of $11 million or $22 million for couples, affects fewer than 2,000 families. Myth. If taxes are raised on the wealthy, they will find ways to evade them, so very little money is going to be raised.
Billionaires will go somewhere else. Multimillionaires will go somewhere else.
So you raise these taxes and people shift their investments to avoid higher taxes.
More rubbish. For example, a 2% wealth tax, as proposed by Senator Elizabeth Warren, would raise around $2.75 trillion over the next decade, with very little tax evasion, according to research. A 70% tax on incomes over $10 million would raise close to $720 billion over the next 10 years. Myth. The only reason to raise taxes on the wealthy is to collect revenue.
No one really believes that it would either bring in more revenues.
It's not just because you object to the existence of rich people. You're not trying to hurt them. You just want to pay for more stuff.
No. Although these proposals would generate lots of revenue and help us reduce the national debts while investing in schools, roads, and all the other things we need, another major purpose is to reduce inequality and thereby safeguard democracy against oligarchy. Myth. It's unfair to raise taxes on the wealthy.
Seems to me like it's more a debate about punishing the rich, about punishing success.
The most successful are not only paying their fair share, they're paying the most. Pay your fair share? What are you talking about?
Actually, it's unfair not to raise taxes on the rich. For the last 40 years, most Americans have seen almost no growth in their incomes at all, while the incomes of a minority at the top have skyrocketed. We're rapidly heading toward a society dominated by a handful of super rich, many of whom have never worked a day in their lives. More than 60% of wealth in America is now inherited. Myth. They earned it. It's their money.
I think if people earn money, they should be able to hold on to it.
And be able to do as they see fit with their newfound hard-earned cash.
Hogwash. It's their country, too. They couldn't maintain their fortunes without what America provides: national defense, police, laws, courts, political stability, and the Constitution. They couldn't have got where they are without other things America provides: education, infrastructure, and a nation that respects private property. And to argue it's their money also ignores a lot of other ways America has bestowed advantages on the rich. Everything from bailing out Wall Street bankers when they get into trouble to subsidizing the research of Big Pharma. So the next time you hear one of these myths, know the truth. If you found our video informative, please follow this page.